Now You See Me Now, You Don't represents the long-awaited third installment in the Now You See Me franchise, arriving nearly a decade after the second film captivated audiences with its blend of magic, heists, and elaborate cons. Directed by Ruben Fleischer, known for his work on Venom, Uncharted, and Zombieland, this film reunites the original Four Horsemen while introducing a new generation of illusionists into the fold. Released in theaters on November 14, 2025, the movie promised mind-melding twists, turns, and magical surprises unlike anything previously captured on film. While the wait was lengthy, delayed by various factors including the global pandemic and entertainment industry strikes, fans of the franchise finally got to see their favorite magician vigilantes return to the screen with fresh tricks up their sleeves. The film opens 10 years after the events of the second installment, establishing immediately that time has passed and circumstances have changed for the Four Horsemen. The world believes that the legendary illusionist crew is no more, disbanded, and gone their separate ways after years of high-profile magical heists that embarrassed the wealthy and powerful while delighting audiences worldwide. This presumed dissolution of the group becomes crucial to the opening sequence, which introduces three young magicians who have taken inspiration from the Horsemen's legacy. Charlie, Bosco Leroy, and June Raukler represent a new generation of performers who admire what the Four Horsemen accomplished and seek to continue their mission of exposing corruption through elaborate magical cons. These three newcomers stage what appears to be a Four Horsemen magic show, but it is actually an elaborate fake created through deepfakes and holographic technology. The sophistication of modern illusion techniques allows them to create convincing digital representations of the original Horsemen, fooling their audience into believing they are witnessing the real deal. The target of this opening heist is the corrupt owner of a cryptocurrency exchange, someone who has been defrauding investors and enriching himself at the expense of ordinary people. During the fake show, Charlie, Bosco, and June drain the cryptocurrency mogul's digital wallet and distribute the stolen funds among the attendees, giving ordinary people back what was taken from them. It is a bold opening statement that honors the spirit of the original Four Horsemen while demonstrating that a new generation is ready to carry the torch forward. However, this unauthorized use of the Horsemen name and methods does not go unnoticed. The original members of the group, who have indeed been living separate lives under new identities, learn about these young upstarts appropriating their legacy. Daniel Atlas, played once again by Jesse Eisenberg, has been living under the assumption that his former teammates moved on because things became too real for them, too dangerous, and they needed to walk away for their own safety. The screenplay by Michael Lesslie, Paul Wernick, Rhett Reese, and Seth Grahame-Smith based on a story by Eric Warren Singer, and Lesslie weaves together the narratives of the original Horsemen and the new generation, setting up a story that explores mentorship, legacy, and the dangers of fame in the age of social media and advanced surveillance technology. The cast features the return of beloved characters from the previous films. Jesse Eisenberg reprises his role as Daniel Atlas, the driven and talented illusionist who serves as the de facto leader of the Four Horsemen. Woody Harrelson returns as Merritt McKinney, the mentalist and hypnotist whose laid-back demeanor masks a sharp intellect and quick wit. Dave Franco is back as Jack Wilder, the street magician and escape artist whose youthful energy and parkour skills make him invaluable during heists. Isla Fisher returns as Henley Reeves, the escape artist whose romantic history with Daniel adds emotional complexity to the group dynamics. Mark Ruffalo reprises his role as Dylan Rhodes, the FBI agent who was revealed in the first film to be orchestrating the Horsemen's activities from behind the scenes as the Mysterious Eye organization's representative. The new generation is represented by fresh faces, bringing energy to the franchise. Justice Smith plays Charlie, one of the young magicians who initiates the opening heist. Dominic Sessa portrays Bosco Leroy, bringing charisma to another member of the trio. Ariana Greenblatt takes on the role of June Raukler, rounding out the new generation of illusionists. The film also features Rosamund Pike as the primary antagonist, a formidable adversary whose motivations and methods pose unique challenges for both the original Horsemen and the newcomers. Morgan Freeman returns in a supporting role, lending gravitas and continuity to the franchise. The plot kicks into high gear when the activities of Charlie, Bosco, and June attract unwanted attention from both law enforcement and more dangerous parties. Their fake Four Horsemen show, while successful in its immediate goal of redistributing wealth, creates ripples that threaten to expose the real horsemen who have been living in hiding. Daniel Atlas, learning of these developments, realizes that the situation requires the original team to come out of retirement and take control before everything they built gets destroyed by well-meaning but reckless imitators. The film explores the tension between the old guard and the new generation, questioning who has the right to carry on a legacy and what responsibilities come with that inheritance. Assembling the Four Horsemen again after a decade proves challenging. Each member has built a new life, and the reasons they disbanded in the first place have not disappeared. The screenplay takes time to show where each character ended up during their years away from the spotlight. Some have found peace in anonymity, while others struggle with the loss of purpose that came with leaving the group. Daniel takes it upon himself to track down his former teammates and convince them that coming back together is necessary, not just to protect their legacy, but to prevent the young magicians from getting themselves killed, pursuing dangerous targets without proper preparation or resources. The reunion scenes balance nostalgia with genuine character development, avoiding the trap of simply recreating greatest hits from previous films. Merritt McKinney is found running a modest mentalist act under a different name, using his skills on a much smaller scale than the globe-spanning heists of his Horsemen days. Jack Wilder has been working behind the scenes in the entertainment industry, applying his knowledge of illusions and staging to film and television production. Henley Reeves has attempted to build a quieter life, but finds herself drawn back into the world of magic and performance. Dylan Rhodes, having sacrificed his FBI career to protect the Horsemen, operates from the shadows, still connected to the mysterious eye organization that guides their activities. As the original Horsemen reconnect, they also must deal with Charlie, Bosco, and June. The young magicians are talented but reckless, pulling off impressive illusions without fully understanding the larger game they have entered. The film sets up a mentor-mentee dynamic as the experienced horsemen try to guide the newcomers while also investigating who is really behind the threats they all face. This intergenerational conflict and eventual collaboration forms the emotional core of the movie, with the screenplay exploring how skills and values get passed down while also allowing younger voices to challenge established ways of doing things. The antagonist, portrayed by Rosamund Pike, emerges as someone with deep connections to the world the Horsemen inhabit. Her character, Wernick, operates in the shadows of global finance and technology, using advanced surveillance and predictive algorithms to stay ahead of traditional law enforcement and criminal organizations alike. Wernick represents a new type of villain for the franchise, someone who fights with data and information rather than just physical force. She has been tracking the Horsemen for years, collecting information about their methods and identities, and the arrival of the young magicians gives her an opportunity to draw the real Four Horsemen out of hiding. Wernick's master plan involves using the Horsemen's own techniques against them. She has created an elaborate trap, a seemingly impossible heist that will require all of the Horsemen's skills to pull off. The target is presented as another corrupt institution deserving of exposure, playing on the team's sense of justice and their need to prove they can still execute at the highest level. But Wernick has seeded the operation with traps and false information, intending to capture the Horsemen and expose them publicly, destroying their mystique and selling their secrets to the highest bidder. The stakes are personal and professional, with the very concept of magic and wonder hanging in the balance against cold technological surveillance. The centerpiece of the film takes place at an elaborate estate filled with impossible architecture and illusory rooms. This location becomes a physical manifestation of the themes at play, with reality itself becoming malleable and unreliable. The production team created incredible practical sets, including an Ames room that distorts perspective and size, stairs that seem to defy gravity in the style of M.C. Escher drawings, and a rotating corridor that disorients anyone trying to navigate through it. These spaces serve both as visual spectacle and as practical tools in the climactic confrontation between the horsemen and their pursuers. When Wernick springs her trap, the horsemen and the young magicians find themselves inside the estate with police on Wernick's payroll closing in from all sides. The team must split up, using the illusory architecture to their advantage while searching for the real prize that Wernick has been protecting all along. Charlie and Bosco navigate the impossible geometry of the estate's interior, their youth and physical agility allowing them to traverse spaces that would challenge the older horsemen. Meanwhile, Daniel and Henley work together, their history and chemistry allowing them to anticipate each other's moves as they search for Wernick's hidden vault. The vault contains client lists and documentation of illegal activities by some of the world's most powerful people. Wernick has been operating as a fixer and information broker, using her technological capabilities to gather compromising information, and then selling protection or silence to the wealthy and corrupt. This revelation reframes the entire heist, showing that the real magic is not the illusions the horsemen perform, but the truth they uncover and expose. The client list represents power over the powerful, and whoever controls it effectively controls global finance and politics. The action sequences blend practical stunts with digital effects, maintaining the franchise's tradition of grounding its magic in real sleight-of-hand techniques while enhancing the spectacle through cinema. Director Ruben Fleischer brings his experience with action comedy to bear, keeping the pace energetic while allowing character moments to breathe. The rotating corridor sequence is particularly memorable, with cast members genuinely performing, while the set physically rotates around them, creating disorienting camera angles that enhance the magical atmosphere. Merritt McKinney and Jack Wilder team up with June Raukler, the mentalist and escape artist working with the newest member to outmaneuver the corrupt police forces swarming the estate. This team gets captured, creating a ticking clock scenario as Daniel, Charlie, Bosco, and Henley race to both secure the client list and figure out how to rescue their teammates. The screenplay balances multiple plot threads without losing focus, giving each character meaningful contributions to the overall plan, while building toward a climax that requires everyone working together. During their escape attempt, tragedy strikes when Thaddeus Bradley, the magic debunker played by Morgan Freeman, who has had a complicated relationship with the Horsemen throughout the franchise, is fatally shot inside an escape tunnel. His death carries weight as a character who began as an antagonist, but gradually became an unlikely ally. The film does not dwell morbidly on this loss, but acknowledges it as a real consequence of the dangerous game the Horsemen play. Thaddeus's final moments show him helping the team escape, redeeming his earlier betrayals, and recognizing the genuine good the Horsemen accomplish despite their morally ambiguous methods. The final act involves the Horsemen pulling off their most ambitious illusion yet, using everything they have learned over 3 films to not only escape Wernick's trap, but to turn it against her. They orchestrate a global broadcast that exposes the contents of the client list, revealing corruption and criminal activity by powerful figures worldwide. This broadcast is itself a magic show, presented in a way that protects the Horsemen's identities while delivering undeniable evidence of wrongdoing. The sequence showcases each member's specialty, from Daniel's showmanship to Merritt's psychological manipulation, to Jack's technical expertise to Henley's grace under pressure. Charlie, Bosco, and June prove their worth during this climactic sequence, earning their place alongside the original Horsemen rather than simply riding on their legacy. The young magicians bring fresh perspectives and techniques, incorporating social media and viral marketing into the traditional model of staged spectacular illusions. This integration of old and new methods reflects the film's thematic concern with how magic evolves while retaining its essential wonder and mystery. The collaboration between generations becomes the ultimate trick, with no single person able to pull off what they accomplish together. Wernicke's downfall comes not from physical defeat, but from exposure. Her entire business model relied on secrecy and her ability to control information. Once the Horsemen broadcast her client list to the world, her power evaporates. Law enforcement agencies not under her influence can finally act, and her former clients turn on her to save themselves. The film presents this as a more satisfying victory than simply capturing or killing the villain, showing that information and truth are the most powerful magic of all. The resolution provides closure while leaving room for future adventures. The original Four Horsemen officially welcome Charlie, Bosco, and June into their ranks, expanding the team and acknowledging that their legacy will continue beyond them. Dylan Rhodes, representing the I organization, hints at larger missions to come, suggesting that the battle against corruption and injustice is never truly finished. The final scene shows the expanded team performing a small, intimate magic show for underprivileged children, returning to the pure joy and wonder that drew them all to magic in the first place. This grounded ending balances the global stakes of the main plot with a reminder of why magic matters on a human level. The film premiered at the Harbor Club in Amsterdam, Netherlands, on November 11, 2025, a suitably international location for a franchise that has always emphasized the global reach of its characters and themes. The domestic theatrical release followed on November 14th across the United States and other territories. Lionsgate positioned the film as a major holiday season release, hoping to capture audiences looking for escapist entertainment during the competitive end-of-year movie-going period. Critical reception was mixed, but generally favorable, with many reviewers noting that Now You See Me Now, You Don't represents an improvement over the second film, while not quite matching the fresh excitement of the original. The Rotten Tomatoes score settled around 95% based on early reviews, indicating strong critical approval. Critics praised the return to the franchise's core strengths of clever plotting and charismatic performances, while noting that the basic formula remains largely unchanged from previous installments. The Los Angeles Times described it as good, but not as magical as the last two movies, a sentiment echoed by several publications that enjoyed the film without finding it revolutionary. Box office performance was solid if not spectacular. The film grossed $81.9 million worldwide during its theatrical run, a respectable total that falls short of the $350 million earned by the original and the $334 million from the sequel. However, the more modest marketing budget and realistic production costs meant the film remained profitable for Lionsgate. The franchise has always performed well internationally, and Now You See Me Now, You Don't continued that trend with strong showings in Europe and Asia, where the blend of magic and heist thriller elements translates across cultural boundaries. The production filmed in multiple countries to achieve its international flavor. Principal photography took place in Hungary, Belgium, and Abu Dhabi, with each location providing distinct visual character. Hungary served as the primary base for production, offering tax incentives and experienced crews that have made it a popular destination for Hollywood films. The elaborate estate sequences were built on soundstages in Budapest, where the production team could control lighting and camera movements precisely while executing the complex rotating sets and forced perspective illusions. Belgium provided European street scenes and architecture, while Abu Dhabi offered striking modern buildings and desert landscapes that appear in several key sequences. Director Ruben Fleischer brought a different sensibility to the franchise compared to previous directors Louis Leterrier and John M. Chu. Fleischer's background in comedy horror with Zombieland and big-budget action with Venom gave him tools to balance the film's competing tones of heist thriller, magical fantasy, and character-driven drama. He worked closely with cinematographer to establish a visual language that honors the previous films while adding his own touches. The camera work favors fluid movements and dynamic angles that enhance the magical atmosphere, using long takes where possible to prove that the actors are genuinely performing many of their own stunts and illusions. The screenplay went through multiple writers before arriving at its final form. Michael Lesslie provided the story framework and initial drafts, focusing on the intergenerational conflict between the original Horsemen and the newcomers. The writing team of Paul Wernick and Rhett Reese, best known for their work on Deadpool and Zombieland, punched up the dialogue and action sequences, adding humor and sharpening character voices. Seth Grahame-Smith, who has experience with genre-blending material like Pride and Prejudice and Zombies, helped integrate the technological thriller elements and modernize the franchise's approach to surveillance and information warfare. The Magic Consultation Team included real-world illusionists and escape artists who advised on making the tricks feel plausible within the film's heightened reality. While no one expects these movies to teach actual magic techniques, the consultants helped ground the spectacle in real principles of misdirection, sleight of hand, and psychological manipulation. Many of the illusions are based on real techniques that have been scaled up for cinematic impact, maintaining the franchise's tradition of treating magic as a serious craft rather than pure fantasy. The thematic exploration of legacy and mentorship gives the film emotional weight beyond its plot mechanics. Daniel Atlas begins the story believing his former teammates abandoned their mission because it became too dangerous or demanding. Through reconnecting with them and training the next generation, he realizes that the real magic lies not in individual brilliance, but in collaboration and trust. The film suggests that what the Four Horsemen accomplished was only possible because they worked together, covering for each other's weaknesses and amplifying each other's strengths. This theme resonates with the production itself, which required hundreds of artists and technicians working in harmony to create the illusion of effortless magic. The relationship dynamics receive more attention than in previous installments. Daniel and Henley's romantic history, which was introduced in the first film and complicated in the second, finally reaches a resolution here. Their scenes together balance nostalgia for what they once had with honest acknowledgement of how they have both changed. Rather than forcing them back into a relationship that no longer fits, the screenplay allows them to remain close friends and professional partners, modeling a maturity often lacking in franchise films. This emotional honesty extends to other relationships as well, with Merritt and Jack evolving from mentor and student to equal partners. The young magicians are not simply copies of the original Horsemen, but have their own personalities and approaches to magic. Charlie is more tech-savvy than the older generation, understanding how to manipulate digital information and social media to enhance traditional illusions. Bosco brings showmanship and charisma, drawing on influences from hip-hop and contemporary performance art rather than the classical stage magic tradition. June combines technical skill with genuine empathy, using her talents to connect with audiences on an emotional level. Together, they represent how magic has evolved in the digital age while retaining its essential power to inspire wonder. The Eye organization remains mysterious despite being present throughout all three films. Dylan Rhodes serves as the main point of contact, but even he admits to not fully understanding the scope and history of this secret society of magicians dedicated to social justice. The film drops hints about the Eye's origins and methods without fully explaining everything, maintaining an air of mystique that keeps audiences guessing. This deliberate ambiguity has been both praised and criticized, with some viewers appreciating the sense of larger mysteries and others finding it frustrating that basic questions remain unanswered after 3 films. The costume design reflects the characters' personalities and development. The original Horsemen wear updated versions of their signature looks, showing how their style has matured without losing essential characteristics. The young magicians have their own distinct aesthetics that feel contemporary without being disposable trend-chasing. Wernicke's wardrobe emphasizes power and control, using sharp lines and muted colors that contrast with the Horsemen's more theatrical choices. Every outfit is designed to look good both in motion during action sequences and in close-up during dialogue scenes, a practical consideration for a film that blends multiple genres. The score composed maintains musical continuity with previous films while introducing new themes for the new characters. The main theme returns, but in evolved forms that reflect the passage of time and changing circumstances. Action sequences feature propulsive rhythms that enhance the excitement without overwhelming the sound design. Quieter character moments use more subtle instrumentation, allowing dialogue and performance to take center stage. The music serves the story rather than calling attention to itself, a difficult balance to achieve in a franchise known for spectacle. Post-production involved extensive visual effects work to create the impossible illusions that define the franchise. While practical effects and real stunts form the foundation, digital augmentation enhances what could be captured in camera. The holographic Four Horsemen in the opening sequence required motion capture performances and rendering that convincingly replicates the actors while maintaining an artificial quality that tips viewers to the deception. The Ames room and other spatial illusions used forced perspective sets enhanced with digital extensions, creating seamless environments where the laws of physics seem negotiable. The marketing campaign emphasized the return to roots approach, highlighting the original cast while introducing new characters as worthy successors rather than replacements. Trailers carefully selected moments that showcase both spectacular illusions and character dynamics, avoiding spoiling major plot twists while still conveying the film's tone and stakes. The tagline "Unlock the Illusion" speaks to the franchise's core appeal of revealing secrets while maintaining wonder. Promotional appearances had cast members performing actual magic tricks in interviews, maintaining the playful meta quality that has always characterized Now You See Me's relationship with audiences. Lionsgate's announcement during CinemaCon in April 2025 that a fourth installment is already in development signals confidence in the franchise's continued viability. Ruben Fleischer is set to return as director, providing creative continuity into the next chapter. The announcement came before Now You See Me Now You Don't had even opened, suggesting that Lionsgate views this series as a reliable mid-budget franchise that can generate consistent profits without requiring superhero-sized budgets or marketing spends. The film's exploration of truth and illusion in the digital age feels particularly relevant to contemporary audiences navigating misinformation and deep-fake technology. The opening sequence's use of digital fakery to impersonate the Four Horsemen could be read as commentary on how technology makes it increasingly difficult to verify what is real. Yet the film ultimately comes down on the side of truth mattering, with the climactic exposure of Wernick's client list showing that factual information still has power to create change. This tension between illusion and truth, between performance and reality, has always been central to the franchise, but takes on new dimensions in an era where those boundaries are increasingly blurred. The decision to set the story 10 years after the previous film, rather than using some continuity trick to compress the timeline, shows respect for the audience and the actors. Jesse Eisenberg, Woody Harrelson, and their co-stars are visibly older than in the first film, and acknowledging that passage of time allows the characters to have changed and grown. The screenplay does not pretend that a decade of living in hiding would leave no mark on these characters. They have gained wisdom and lost some of their youthful recklessness, changes that feel earned rather than imposed by storytelling convenience. Now You See Me Now You Don't succeeds most when it focuses on why these characters do what they do rather than just showing elaborate tricks. The social justice angle that motivated the Horsemen from the beginning remains their driving force, and the film takes care to show that their targets genuinely deserve exposure. Wernick's client list includes human traffickers, money launderers, and corrupt politicians, ensuring that audience sympathy stays with the Horsemen even as they break laws and endanger themselves. This moral clarity keeps the fantasy intact, allowing viewers to root for criminals because those criminals are fighting for the powerless against the corrupt powerful. The film runs for 1 hour and 53 minutes, a runtime that allows breathing room for character development without excessive padding. The pacing stumbles occasionally in the second act when the various plot threads are being established, but Fleischer generally keeps momentum strong. The climax earns its spectacle through proper setup, with each element of the final illusion having been introduced earlier so the payoff feels satisfying rather than arbitrary. This attention to structure shows respect for the audience's intelligence and rewards careful viewing. Home video and streaming release plans follow Lionsgate's standard theatrical window, with the film expected to arrive on premium video on demand roughly 45 days after theatrical release, and on Apple TV Plus and other streaming platforms several months later. The franchise has always performed well in ancillary markets, with the first two films remaining popular on streaming platforms years after their theatrical runs. Now You See Me Now You Don't should continue that trend, finding audiences who missed the theatrical release or want to revisit the story. The film's messages about chosen family and finding purpose resonate beyond its genre trappings. Each of the horsemen has been damaged or disappointed by biological family or society, but they have built something meaningful together based on shared values and mutual respect. The addition of the young magicians expands that family without displacing the originals, modeling an inclusive approach to belonging. In a world that often feels divided and atomized, the fantasy of a group of talented people working together for justice has obvious appeal. Critical discussions of the film have noted how it functions as comfort food, delivering familiar pleasures without challenging viewers too strenuously. This is both strength and limitation, as the film succeeds at being entertaining without necessarily being memorable or innovative. For fans of the franchise, getting more of what they enjoyed in previous installments is exactly what they wanted. For viewers hoping the series might evolve in significant ways, the adherence to formula can feel like a missed opportunity. The balance between satisfying existing fans and attracting new audiences is difficult to achieve, and Now You See Me Now You Don't generally leans toward the former. The performances uniformly hit the right notes without reaching for awards consideration. Jesse Eisenberg brings his characteristic intensity to Daniel Atlas, showing how the character has matured without losing his competitive drive. Woody Harrelson provides comic relief while also delivering genuine emotion in key scenes. Dave Franco's physicality makes action sequences believable, while his comedy timing lands the lighter moments. Isla Fisher brings warmth and strength to Henley, avoiding the trap of making her simply the female horseman without distinct personality. The newcomers hold their own against the veterans, particularly Ariana Greenblatt, who brings fire to June. Rosamund Pike as Wernick delivers a villain who feels genuinely threatening while remaining grounded enough to be believable. She avoids over-the-top theatrics, instead playing Wernick as someone who sees manipulation and control as simply business. This measured approach makes her more frightening than if she were cackling and monologuing, presenting someone who has convinced herself that her actions are justified or at least inevitable. Pike's scenes with Eisenberg crackle with tension as two highly intelligent people try to outmaneuver each other. The film's production budget, while not publicly confirmed, likely fell in the $70 to $90 million range based on similar films and the locations and effects required. This positions it as mid-budget by contemporary standards, larger than indie fare but modest compared to superhero blockbusters that routinely exceed $200 million. The careful budgeting shows in efficient production design that maximizes impact without waste, using practical sets and effects wherever possible and reserving digital work for moments that truly require it. Now You See Me Now You Don't ultimately delivers what it promises, an entertaining heist thriller with magical flourishes and a likable cast. It does not reinvent the franchise or reach for greatness, content instead to execute its formula competently and leave audiences satisfied. In an era when so many franchises strain for epic importance or grim seriousness, there is something refreshing about a series that maintains a light touch and sense of fun. The Horsemen ride again, and for fans who have been waiting nearly a decade for this reunion, that is magic enough. The visual effects team faced unique challenges in creating illusions that needed to appear impossible, yet grounded enough to maintain audience investment. Lead visual effects supervisor worked with a team of over 200 digital artists across multiple studios to create seamless integration between practical magic tricks and computer-generated enhancements. The philosophy guiding their work was that every digital effect should feel like it could theoretically be achieved through stage magic, if one had unlimited resources and physics worked slightly differently. This approach maintains the franchise's identity as being about human cleverness and showmanship rather than superpowers or pure fantasy. One of the most technically demanding sequences involves a mass hypnosis scene where Merritt McKinney uses his mentalist abilities on an entire auditorium of people. The sequence required choreographing hundreds of extras to move in synchronized patterns that appear organic, yet clearly demonstrate they are under psychological influence. Fleischer shot multiple takes with different sections of the crowd, then used digital compositing to combine the best performances into a single, seamless take. The lighting shifts subtly throughout the sequence, with warm tones draining away to cooler blues and grays as the hypnosis takes hold, a visual metaphor for the subjects losing their individual agency and warmth. The film explores how social media has changed the landscape for performers like the Horsemen. In the original film set in 2013, the team could still control their image and message relatively easily. By 2025, that control has evaporated as everyone with a smartphone becomes a potential documentarian. Charlie, Bosco, and June understand this new reality intuitively, having grown up with social media as a constant presence. They incorporate viral marketing and crowd-sourced participation into their illusions in ways the original Horsemen never considered. This generational divide creates friction, but also opportunities, as the combined team learns to weaponize social media's reach while minimizing its surveillance capabilities. The Morocco sequences, though actually filmed in Abu Dhabi for logistical reasons, provide visual contrast to the European locations that dominate much of the film. The desert landscapes and contemporary architecture of Abu Dhabi's business district stand in for a fictional North African city where one of Wernicke's shell companies operates. The production took advantage of Abu Dhabi's film incentive program, which covers 30% of qualifying production expenditures. These scenes establish the global scope of both Wernicke's criminal network and the Horsemen's reach, showing that corruption and the fight against it transcend national boundaries. The relationship between Dylan Rhodes and the expanded team receives deeper exploration than in previous films. Mark Ruffalo's character has sacrificed his career in law enforcement to protect the Horsemen and serve the mysterious Eye organization. This choice weighs on him more heavily as he ages, and the film allows him moments of doubt and regret that humanize someone who has often functioned more as plot device than fully realized person. His scenes with the young magicians are particularly effective, as he sees in them the idealism and certainty he once possessed before years of moral compromise wore him down. Ruffalo brings gravitas and weariness to these moments, selling Dylan's internal conflict without becoming maudlin. The stunt coordination team led by assembled a crew experienced in parkour, wirework, and close-quarters combat to execute the film's action sequences. Jack Wilder's escape through the rotating corridor required Dave Franco to train for weeks on the custom-built rotating set, learning to move naturally while the room spun around him at varying speeds. The sequence was shot practically with minimal digital augmentation, with Franco genuinely performing, while cameras mounted to the rotating structure captured his movements from multiple angles. The disorienting effect on audiences comes from the same disorientation Franco experienced while filming, making his performance feel authentic and grounded despite the impossible geometry. Themes of surveillance and privacy permeate the narrative in ways that feel timely without being preachy. Wernicke's technological capabilities represent an extreme version of the data collection that has become normalized in contemporary society. She knows where people go, what they buy, who they communicate with, and can predict their behavior with unsettling accuracy. The Horsemen's victory over her involves not just exposing her crimes, but also destroying her surveillance infrastructure, a fantasy of reclaiming privacy that resonates with audiences increasingly uncomfortable with how much of their lives exists as data points. The film does not pretend to offer real solutions to these problems, but acknowledges anxieties many viewers share. The editing maintains pace while allowing quiet character moments to breathe. The rhythm alternates between frenetic action and contemplative dialogue, giving audiences time to process information and emotional beats before the next set piece arrives. The climactic heist sequence particularly benefits from this approach, as the editing cross cuts between multiple teams executing different parts of the plan, building tension through rhythm and timing rather than just showing people running and shooting. Each cut serves both narrative purpose and emotional arc, avoiding the empty spectacle that plagues many contemporary action films. Production designer created distinct visual identities for each major location. The estate where much of the climax unfolds features impossible architecture that recalls both M.C. Escher's lithographs and the practical illusions of Victorian-era stage magic. Rooms connect in ways that violate spatial logic, with doors opening onto spaces that should not exist based on the building's exterior dimensions. These sets were built full-scale wherever possible, with the rotating corridor, Ames' room, and inverted staircase all being practical constructions that actors could physically interact with. The tangible reality of these spaces grounds the fantastical elements, making the impossible feel achievable through cleverness rather than magic. The costume budget reportedly exceeded $3 million, a significant allocation that reflects how important visual style is to the franchise's identity. Each character's wardrobe consists of multiple outfits that must look good in action while conveying personality and status. Daniel's tailored suits reflect his evolution from street magician to sophisticated performer, with subtle details like custom cufflinks that serve as lockpicks or cameras. Merritt's more casual style has matured from rumpled professorial to carefully curated bohemian, showing someone who has found peace with himself. The young magicians favor contemporary streetwear, elevated through careful tailoring and unexpected combinations, looking like they belong in fashion magazines while remaining practical for physical activity. The decision to kill Thaddeus Bradley, Morgan Freeman's character, was reportedly controversial among the creative team. Some felt that Freeman's presence added prestige and continuity that should be preserved, while others argued that real consequences needed to exist for the story's stakes to feel genuine. The final decision came down to what served the narrative best, with Thaddeus's death providing motivation for the team's final push against Wernick, while also symbolizing the end of an era. Freeman himself supported the choice, seeing it as giving his character a meaningful conclusion rather than just appearing for a cameo paycheck. The sound design creates an immersive environment where every click, shuffle, and whisper carries potential significance. Lead sound designer and his team recorded hours of custom sounds for the various illusions, from the specific rustle of playing cards being manipulated to the mechanical hum of the rotating corridor set. The sound palette emphasizes precision and control, with clean, crisp effects that highlight the technical skill involved in pulling off each trick. During the hypnosis sequences, subtle audio cues like heartbeat rhythms and breathing patterns draw viewers deeper into the psychological manipulation being portrayed. International distribution required some adjustments for different markets. China, a crucial territory for Hollywood releases, received a version with certain political references softened to satisfy censors. The European release remained largely unchanged from the North American version, while some Middle Eastern territories requested minor edits to scenes they deemed culturally insensitive. These regional variations have become standard practice for major releases, though they remain controversial among filmmakers who prefer their work be seen as intended regardless of location. The film's treatment of technology walks a fine line between critique and celebration. While Wernicke's surveillance capabilities are presented as threatening and dystopian, the young magicians use similar technologies for positive ends. The difference lies not in the tools themselves, but in the intentions and accountability of those wielding them. This nuanced view avoids simplistic technology good or technology bad narratives, instead focusing on human choices and consequences. Charlie's ability to hack systems and manipulate data is portrayed as neutral, becoming heroic or villainous based on how he applies those skills. Behind the scenes, Footage released as part of the marketing campaign showed the extensive rehearsal process the cast underwent to learn their illusions. Real magicians worked with the actors daily, teaching sleight of hand, misdirection techniques, and the performance skills necessary to sell the tricks to camera. Jesse Eisenberg spent months practicing card manipulation, developing calluses and muscle memory that allow him to execute flourishes that look natural on screen. This commitment to authenticity shows in the final product, where close-up magic sequences can be filmed in extended takes without obvious cuts to hide technique. The chemistry between cast members, developed over 3 films spanning more than a decade, adds warmth to their interactions. The original Four Horsemen clearly enjoy working together, and that camaraderie translates to screen as genuine affection between characters. The integration of new cast members could have been awkward, but Justice Smith, Dominic Sessa, and Ariana Greenblatt were welcomed into the ensemble and developed their own rapport with the veterans. Off-screen friendships formed during the lengthy production schedule, and the cast has spoken in interviews about the family atmosphere on set. The film's approach to exposition balances the needs of newcomers with the expectations of longtime fans. Early scenes efficiently recap the essential history without boring viewers already familiar with the franchise. Characters reference previous adventures naturally in conversation, rather than through clunky recitation of plot points. For those jumping into the series with this 3rd installment, enough context is provided to follow the story, though certain emotional beats and character relationships will resonate more deeply for viewers who experience the earlier films. Marketing materials deliberately played with audience expectations about which characters would survive and what revelations would occur. Trailers included shots that do not appear in the final film, red herrings designed to mislead viewers trying to predict the plot. This playfulness extends the film's themes of misdirection and illusion into the real-world publicity campaign, treating the audience as participants in an extended magic show that begins with promotional materials and continues through the viewing experience and beyond. The environmental impact of the production was significant given the international shooting schedule and elaborate sets. Lionsgate implemented sustainability initiatives, including solar-powered generators, where feasible, careful waste management and recycling programs, and carbon offset purchases to mitigate the production's climate footprint. These efforts, while imperfect, represent growing awareness within the industry that blockbuster filmmaking carries environmental costs that should be acknowledged and minimized where possible. Now You See Me Now, You Don't succeeds in delivering closure to certain character arcs while leaving narrative threads open for future installments. The confirmed 4th film gives the creative team freedom to tell a complete story here without worrying about setting up excessive sequel bait. Each horseman experiences growth and change, facing fears or limitations that have defined them since the 1st film. Daniel learns to trust and delegate. Merritt confronts his cynicism and rediscovers purpose. Jack steps into leadership roles rather than always following others. Henley asserts independence and shows she is more than just the female member of the team. The film's modest box office relative to earlier installments reflects broader industry trends more than specific failures of this production. Theatrical attendance has struggled to return to pre-pandemic levels, with audiences becoming more selective about what justifies leaving home and spending money on tickets and concessions. Mid-budget films especially have suffered, as viewers save theatrical experiences for massive spectacle blockbusters, while waiting for everything else to arrive on streaming. That Now You See Me Now, You Don't still earned over $80 million worldwide, demonstrates the franchise retains cultural relevance and audience affection, even in challenging market conditions. The musical performances fit seamlessly into the narrative, with diegetic music during magic shows and source music in scenes set in nightclubs or public spaces feeling organic rather than imposed. The score swells during emotional peaks without overwhelming dialogue, a balance that requires careful mixing and mastering. Each character has associated musical motifs that evolve throughout the film, reflecting their internal journeys and relationship dynamics. These leitmotifs reward attentive listeners without being so obvious that casual viewers feel beaten over the head with musical metaphor. The cinematography employs a rich color palette that distinguishes different locations and emotional tones. The estate sequences favor deep shadows and dramatic lighting that emphasize the Gothic mystery of the impossible architecture. Scenes set in contemporary cities use cooler tones and harder light that creates a sterile, surveilled atmosphere. The Morocco stand-in sequences embrace warmer colors and softer light that suggests possibility and freedom from the technological panopticon. These choices guide viewer emotions subtly, creating associations between color temperature and narrative themes without requiring conscious recognition. The final message about truth, illusion, and justice resonates as the credits roll. The Horsemen succeed not through violence or traditional heroism, but through cleverness, preparation, and teamwork. They expose wrongdoing and protect the vulnerable, not because they have superpowers or institutional authority, but because they choose to use their considerable talents for something meaningful. This fantasy of individual agency and effective action against systemic corruption is perhaps the real magic the franchise offers, more compelling than any card trick or stage illusion. In uncertain times when institutions often seem captured by the powerful, the image of skilled mavericks fighting back appeals across demographic and political divides. Now You See Me Now, You Don't reminds viewers why they fell in love with these characters, and this world while acknowledging that both have evolved. It is a film comfortable with what it is, neither apologizing for its entertainment focus nor pretending to profundity it does not possess. For 2 hours, it offers escape, excitement, and the pleasure of watching talented people execute difficult tasks with style and flair. That may seem modest in an era when franchises often reach for cultural significance, but it is enough. The Horsemen take their bow, the audience applauds, and everyone leaves satisfied, already anticipating the next impossible trick. The casting process for the new generation of magicians took nearly a year, with hundreds of actors auditioning for the roles of Charlie, Bosco, and June. The filmmakers sought performers who could handle both the physical demands of the action sequences and the charisma required to stand alongside established stars like Eisenberg and Harrelson. Justice Smith brought name recognition from his work in the Jurassic World franchise and Detective Pikachu. But more importantly, he possessed the intelligence and intensity needed to play someone worthy of joining the Horsemen. His chemistry reads with the veteran cast convinced producers he could hold his own in ensemble scenes where everyone is competing for attention. Dominic Sessa's breakout performance in The Holdovers made him a hot commodity in Hollywood, and landing the role of Bosco Leroy represented his first major studio tentpole. Sessa brings naturalism to what could have been a showboat character, making Bosco feel like a real person who happens to be extraordinarily talented rather than a collection of quirks and catchphrases. His scenes opposite Woody Harrelson crackle with energy as two performers from different generations find common ground in their love of performance and their willingness to push boundaries for the sake of the show. Ariana Greenblatt had already demonstrated her ability to handle action sequences in films like Barbie and Borderlands, making her a natural fit for June Raukler. What sets her apart is the emotional intelligence she brings to the role, making June the heart of the new trio in ways that balance Charlie's technical brilliance and Bosco's showmanship. Greenblatt worked with dialect coaches to perfect June's accent, which the script describes as deliberately ambiguous, suggesting someone who has moved around extensively and absorbed linguistic influences from multiple regions. This rootlessness becomes part of the character's backstory, explaining why the found family of the Horsemen appeals to her so strongly. The training regimen for all cast members intensified in the months leading up to production. Beyond learning magic tricks and illusions, the actors underwent physical conditioning to handle the demanding stunt work. Greenblatt trained in gymnastics and parkour, building on skills she already possessed and pushing them to new levels. Smith worked with martial arts choreographers on hand-to-hand combat sequences, developing muscle memory for movements that would be filmed in long takes with minimal cutting. Sessa embraced wire work, learning to trust the rigging and safety teams as they suspended him from ceilings and swung him through the air during elaborate heist sequences. The screenplay's structure employs multiple perspectives and timelines, occasionally jumping backward to show how certain plot elements were set up earlier without the audience realizing. This technique, used sparingly, rewards attentive viewers who catch callbacks and connections between seemingly unrelated scenes. The writers avoid making these connections too obscure or requiring multiple viewings to understand basic plot, but they add layers for those who want to dig deeper. Some fans have created detailed timelines mapping when each illusion was actually prepared versus when it appears to happen spontaneously, finding satisfaction in uncovering the mechanics behind the magic. Rosamund Pike's preparation for playing Wernick involved researching real-world information brokers and cybersecurity experts. She spoke with consultants about how modern surveillance actually works, learning about the capabilities and limitations of current technology. This grounding in reality informs her performance, making Wernick's methods feel plausible even when scaled up for dramatic purposes. Pike chose to play the character as someone who genuinely believes she is providing a valuable service, protecting powerful people from exposure and maintaining stability in global systems. This moral certainty, however misguided, makes Wernick more than a simple villain seeking wealth or power for its own sake. The film's treatment of its female characters shows evolution from earlier installments, where Henley sometimes felt sidelined or defined primarily through her relationship with Daniel. Here, both Henley and June get moments of competence and heroism independent of the male characters. A sequence where the two women work together to infiltrate one of Wernick's secure facilities showcases their different approaches to problem-solving, with Henley's experience complementing June's youthful adaptability. The scene passes the Bechdel test easily while also serving the plot and developing both characters. Merchandising and licensing deals expanded the franchise's reach beyond theatrical revenue. A mobile game launched simultaneously with the film's release allows players to learn and perform virtual magic tricks, building skills that translate to real-world sleight of hand. Playing card decks featuring designs from the films sold through specialty magic shops and mainstream retailers. A planned stage show would tour major cities, combining elements from all three films into a live theatrical experience featuring professional magicians. These ancillary revenue streams help justify the production costs and ensure the franchise remains profitable even with modest theatrical grosses. The relationship between practical effects and digital enhancement evolved throughout production as the team discovered what could be achieved in camera versus what required computer assistance. Director Ruben Fleischer maintained a philosophy of capturing as much practically as possible, using digital tools to perfect and enhance rather than create from whole cloth. This approach gives the film a tactile quality often missing from effects-heavy blockbusters, where everything feels weightless and artificial. When Jack Wilder slides down a railing or vaults over furniture, those are real stunts performed by Dave Franco or his stunt double, not pixels arranged to approximate human movement. The improvisation encouraged during filming added spontaneity and naturalism to scripted scenes. Woody Harrelson, in particular, brought his considerable improvisational skills to bear, finding new line readings and physical comedy business that made Merritt feel lived in and authentic. Jesse Eisenberg matched this energy, and their scenes together feel like jazz musicians riffing on familiar themes, hitting the necessary plot beats while finding unexpected grace notes along the way. Fleischer allowed takes to run long, giving actors freedom to explore variations before calling cut, then working with his editor to assemble the best moments into cohesive scenes. The ethical questions raised by the Horsemen's activities receive more direct address than in previous films. Dylan Rhodes expresses doubts about whether exposing corruption through illegal means truly serves justice or simply creates different problems. The young magicians push back, arguing that traditional legal channels have failed and that direct action is necessary when institutions are captured by the powerful. The film does not fully resolve this debate, instead presenting it as an ongoing tension that each character must navigate according to their own moral compass. This ambiguity feels more honest than providing easy answers to complex questions about ends justifying means. The behind-the-scenes dynamics between director and cast were reportedly collaborative and respectful. Fleischer came to the project with clear vision, but remained open to input from actors who had lived with these characters across multiple films. When Eisenberg or Harrelson suggested alternative line readings or character choices, Fleischer considered them seriously, incorporating ideas that strengthened scenes while maintaining veto power when suggestions contradicted larger narrative goals. This balance between strong directorial vision and openness to collaboration created an environment where everyone felt invested in the final product. The insurance and safety protocols on set were extensive given the dangerous stunts and elaborate set pieces. Multiple safety coordinators monitored every action sequence, with medical personnel on standby during risky filming. The rotating corridor set underwent rigorous testing and certification before any actor set foot inside while it was moving. Wire work employed redundant safety systems and experienced riggers who checked every connection multiple times. Despite these precautions, minor injuries occurred as they do on most action productions, though nothing serious enough to halt filming for extended periods. The film's exploration of mentorship extends beyond the obvious relationship between the original Horsemen and the newcomers. Merritt serves as unlikely mentor to Bosco, teaching him that showmanship must serve the trick rather than overwhelming it. Jack guides Charlie in the physical aspects of illusion, showing him how movement and positioning can sell an effect more effectively than technical wizardry alone. Henley helps June understand the emotional connection between performer and audience, the intangible quality that transforms a clever trick into genuine magic. These micro-mentorships feel organic rather than didactic, emerging from characters working together rather than formal instruction. The test screening process refined the final cut significantly. Early audiences struggled with certain plot points that seemed clear to filmmakers immersed in the material, leading to additional exposition and restructuring of key reveals. The balance between explaining enough for comprehension and maintaining mystery proved delicate, with multiple iterations required to find the sweet spot. Some favorite scenes were trimmed or removed when test audiences indicated they slowed momentum, painful choices that ultimately served the greater whole. The theatrical cut runs 13 minutes shorter than the initial assembly, a significant reduction that tightened pacing without losing essential character or plot development. The color grading and final image finishing enhanced the cinematography while maintaining a naturalistic baseline. Colorist worked closely with Fleischer to establish distinct looks for different sequences while maintaining visual continuity. The estate sequences received desaturated treatment that emphasizes grays and muted tones, creating a slightly unreal atmosphere appropriate to the impossible architecture. The Morocco set scenes, by contrast, burst with warm oranges and rich earth tones that feel vibrant and alive. These choices guide viewer emotions without announcing themselves as obvious manipulation. The IMAX release featured expanded aspect ratio for key action sequences, filling the entire screen during the most visually spectacular moments. This required additional planning during production, shooting certain scenes with IMAX cameras or framing standard cameras to protect for the taller aspect ratio. The theatrical experience in IMAX theaters provided the most immersive version of the film, with the surround sound and massive screen enhancing the illusions and action. However, the standard theatrical presentation and eventual home video release also received careful attention to ensure the film plays well regardless of viewing format. The musical performances within the film's world blur the line between diegetic and non-diegetic sound. When the Horsemen perform for audiences within the story, the music accompanying their show exists in that world and characters can hear it. But the score often begins as diegetic music, then transitions to become underscore as scenes progress, creating seamless flow between performance and narrative. This technique reinforces themes about the relationship between illusion and reality, suggesting that all of life is performance to some degree, and the boundaries we draw between authentic and artificial are more permeable than we admit. The international appeal of the franchise stems partly from its minimal reliance on cultural specificity. While set primarily in recognizable locations, the story and characters could theoretically exist anywhere. The themes of fighting corruption and challenging power resonate across borders, as does the universal appeal of magic and wonder. The diverse cast helps as well, with actors from multiple backgrounds bringing different perspectives and energies. This accessibility has made the franchise particularly successful in Asia and Latin America, where Hollywood productions sometimes struggle to find audiences. The deleted scenes included on home video release reveal alternate character beats and plot directions considered during production. One extended sequence showing the original Horsemen's initial reunion was trimmed significantly for pacing, though it contained strong character work that fans appreciate. Another deleted scene explored Wernicke's backstory more explicitly, explaining her motivations in ways the theatrical cut only hints at. These scenes provide context and depth for viewers interested in going deeper, while their removal demonstrates the discipline required to maintain momentum in the theatrical version. The fan theories that emerged even before release testify to the franchise's engaged audience. Online communities dissected every frame of the trailers, searching for clues about plot twists and character fates. Some theories proved remarkably accurate, deducing major reveals from subtle hints in promotional materials. Others spun wildly creative scenarios that bore no resemblance to the actual plot, but demonstrated the passionate investment fans feel in this world and these characters. The filmmakers monitored these discussions without allowing them to dictate creative choices, maintaining their vision while appreciating the enthusiasm. The film's commentary on wealth inequality and corruption feels particularly resonant given contemporary economic anxieties. The Horsemen target billionaires and mega-corporations who exploit workers and manipulate systems for personal gain, a fantasy that appeals to audiences frustrated by real-world inequality. While the film offers no practical solutions to systemic problems, it provides cathartic release through the spectacle of the powerful being humiliated and exposed. This wish fulfillment element has always been central to the franchise's appeal, tapping into justified anger at injustice, while channeling it into entertaining rather than despairing narratives. The legacy of magic consultant David Copperfield, who advised on earlier films, continues here through magicians he trained and recommended. The magic community's involvement lends authenticity and credibility, ensuring that even fantastical illusions maintain connection to real techniques and principles. Professional magicians have generally responded positively to the franchise, appreciating how it generates public interest in their art form, even while acknowledging that the films take considerable liberties with what is actually possible. The increased visibility has reportedly boosted attendance at magic shows and enrollment in magic courses, a tangible benefit to the profession. Now You See Me Now, You Don't stands as a worthy continuation of the franchise, honoring what came before while making space for new voices and ideas. It delivers the entertainment value audiences expect without coasting on past glories or lazily repeating earlier films beat for beat. The balance between nostalgia and innovation, between satisfying existing fans and welcoming newcomers, has been achieved as well as one could reasonably hope. As the credits roll and audiences file out of theaters, the conversations they have will revolve around favorite tricks, surprising twists, and speculation about where the confirmed fourth film might take these characters next. That engagement, that excited discussion, is perhaps the greatest magic trick the franchise has pulled off, transforming passive viewers into active participants in an ongoing conversation about justice, illusion, and the power of working together toward common purpose. The box office performance of Now You See Me Now, You Don't tells a story of moderate success rather than runaway triumph, reflecting both the franchise's enduring appeal and the challenging theatrical landscape of 2025. The film opened to $21.3 million domestically across 3,403 theaters, claiming the top spot at the North American box office during its opening weekend. While respectable, this represents a decline from the franchise's previous installments, with the original Now You See Me opening to $29.3 million in 2013, and Now You See Me 2 debuting with $22.3 million in 2016. The slight erosion suggests that while the core audience remains loyal, the franchise has not significantly expanded its reach despite the decade between sequels. The international performance proved stronger than domestic, continuing a pattern established by earlier films. By the end of its first week, the film had grossed $54.2 million internationally compared to $26.4 million in North America, bringing the worldwide total to approximately $80.6 million. China emerged as a particularly strong market, with audiences there responding enthusiastically to the blend of spectacle and ensemble dynamics. Russia also provided unexpected support, becoming one of the top international territories. This overseas strength kept the film competitive even as domestic numbers suggested softer than hoped performance. The production budget of $90 million created pressure on the break-even calculation. Industry analysts typically estimate that a film needs to gross between 2.5 and 3 times its production budget to become profitable when factoring in marketing costs and theater owner shares of ticket revenue. By this calculation, Now You See Me Now You Don't Need It to reach somewhere between $225 and $270 million worldwide to move into genuinely profitable territory. The early trajectory suggested the film would fall short of this target, likely finishing its theatrical run somewhere between $100 and $150 million globally, making it at best a modest performer rather than a significant profit generator. The steep Monday drop of 70.5% from Sunday's gross raised concerns among industry watchers. Successful films with strong word of mouth typically experience gentler weekday declines as audiences who could not attend opening weekend fill theaters. The precipitous fall suggested that the film was front-loaded, drawing its core audience immediately, but struggling to attract casual viewers or generate repeat business. This pattern often indicates that while fans showed up dutifully, the film failed to create broader cultural conversation or viral moments that might have expanded its appeal beyond those predisposed to see it. The mixed critical reception likely contributed to the box office challenges. While the film earned generally positive reviews, with critics praising the cast chemistry and improved plotting compared to the second film, few reviewers expressed genuine enthusiasm or positioned it as must-see entertainment. The consensus seemed to be that Now You See Me Now You Don't was perfectly adequate, a competently executed franchise entry that delivered expected pleasures without transcending them. This lukewarm critical response made it harder for the film to attract audiences on the fence about seeing it theatrically versus waiting for streaming availability. The competitive release landscape also factored into the performance. Opening the same weekend as The Running Man, a big-budget action film that earned $17 million in its debut, split the action thriller audience. The following weekend brought Wicked and Gladiator 2, massive releases that would dominate conversation and theater screens for weeks. Lionsgate likely chose the November 14th date hoping to claim a brief window before the holiday blockbuster season truly began. But the strategy only partially succeeded, with the film unable to build significant momentum before being overwhelmed by larger releases. In India, the film performed particularly weakly, earning only 3.76 crore rupees in its opening week, roughly equivalent to $450,000. This disappointing showing reflected both the general challenges Hollywood films face in India, where local productions dominate, and the specific difficulties of marketing a magic heist franchise to audiences unfamiliar with the earlier installments. The film opened on fewer screens than major Hollywood tentpoles typically receive, and word of mouth failed to generate the kind of legs that might have compensated for the modest start. Despite these challenges, the film achieved certain benchmarks that provided Lionsgate some satisfaction. It became the 44th film of 2025 to surpass $75 million worldwide, reaching that milestone in just 3 days of wide release. It outpaced the opening of Nobody 2, a Bob Odenkirk action sequel that had similarly modest expectations and ended up disappointing with only 41 million worldwide. By surpassing that troubled release quickly, Now You See Me Now You Don't established itself as at minimum not a disaster, an important psychological distinction for studio executives and franchise stakeholders. The per-theater average of $6,275 on opening weekend indicated decent, if not exceptional, audience interest. Theaters were not packed, but they were not empty either, suggesting the film found its audience in sufficient numbers to justify the theatrical release, even if not to generate blockbuster-level excitement. The wide release strategy, placing the film in over 3,000 theaters, proved appropriate, avoiding the embarrassment of empty auditoriums while also not leaving significant money on the table through insufficient screen count. The film's performance in premium formats like IMAX and Dolby Cinema provided small, bright spots. These higher-priced tickets generated disproportionate revenue relative to their screen count, suggesting that audiences willing to pay extra for enhanced presentation were satisfied with the spectacle the film delivered. IMAX screens in particular showed stronger holds into the second weekend compared to standard presentations, indicating that word of mouth among viewers who saw the film in optimal conditions was more positive than for general audiences. The marketing campaign budget, estimated at $40 to $50 million, represented a significant investment that influenced the break-even calculation. Lionsgate pursued a traditional wide-release marketing strategy including television advertising, digital promotion, theatrical trailers attached to major releases, and press tour featuring the cast. The campaign emphasized the return of beloved characters while positioning the new cast members as fresh additions rather than replacements. Whether this messaging resonated sufficiently to justify the expenditure remains debatable given the final box office totals. Social media engagement metrics told a mixed story. The film trended on platforms like Twitter and TikTok during opening weekend, with fans sharing favorite moments and debating plot twists. However, this online conversation remained largely confined to franchise enthusiasts rather than breaking into broader cultural discourse. Memes and viral clips from the film circulated within fan communities, but failed to achieve the kind of mainstream penetration that can drive casual viewers to theaters. The franchise's digital footprint remained solid but not explosive, mirroring the box office performance. The film's second weekend drop provided crucial information about its long-term prospects. Estimates suggested a decline of approximately 50 to 60%, which, while significant, is not catastrophic for an action-oriented franchise film. This indicated that while the film was not holding extraordinarily well, it was not collapsing entirely either. The middle path suggested a final domestic total in the $35 to $45 million range, respectable but underwhelming given the production costs and franchise pedigree. International markets continued providing the majority of revenue into the second and third weeks of release. Europe showed particularly strong support, with France, Germany, and the United Kingdom all contributing solid numbers. Latin American territories responded enthusiastically as well, with Mexico and Brazil providing important revenue streams. The global appeal of the magic heist concept proved more durable internationally than domestically, where American audiences have become increasingly selective about theatrical viewing, preferring to wait for streaming releases unless a film offers genuine event experience. The home video and streaming release strategy became crucial to the film's overall profitability, given the theatrical shortfall. Lionsgate's distribution agreement with various streaming platforms ensured the film would reach audiences who skipped the theatrical release. The premium video on demand window, where the film would be available for rental or purchase approximately 45 days after theatrical debut, would provide early additional revenue before the eventual streaming premiere. These ancillary markets have become increasingly important for mid-budget films that face challenges in theatrical exhibition. The long-term franchise implications of the box office performance required careful interpretation. While the numbers were disappointing relative to hopes and budget, they were not so catastrophic as to kill the already announced fourth installment. Lionsgate's commitment to continuing the series suggested confidence that adjustments to budget, marketing, and release strategy could improve performance. The core audience clearly remained engaged, even if it had not grown significantly. The question became whether tightening budgets and pursuing more targeted release approaches might yield better results than trying to position these films as broad appeal blockbusters. Comparisons to other magic-themed releases proved illuminating. Films like The Prestige and The Illusionist had performed modestly in their theatrical runs despite strong critical reception and lasting cult followings. The magic genre seems to have a ceiling in terms of mainstream appeal, attracting dedicated fans while struggling to break through to general audiences who prefer more straightforward action or comedy. Now You See Me Now, You Don't exists within these constraints, doing well enough within its niche to justify continued investment while acknowledging the limitations of that market position. The film's performance in China deserves particular attention given that market's importance to Hollywood economics. Chinese audiences have historically responded well to ensemble casts and spectacular visuals, both of which the Now You See Me franchise provides. The film benefited from relatively light censorship, with no significant content changes required for Chinese release. Strong marketing partnerships with local companies helped raise awareness, and the film opened on a healthy number of screens. The positive response bodes well for future installments, as China will likely remain crucial to the franchise's economic viability. The Veterans Day holiday timing of the release provided both advantages and challenges. Schools being closed meant potential for family audiences, though the film's PG-13 rating and adult-oriented themes limited that appeal. The long weekend gave the film extra days to accumulate revenue, padding the opening numbers somewhat. However, it also meant facing stiffer competition from other releases trying to capitalize on the same opportunity. The strategic calculus behind the release date involved weighing these competing factors, and results suggest it was neither a masterstroke nor a disaster. The relationship between budget and box office has become increasingly fraught in contemporary Hollywood. $90 million represents a mid-range budget, larger than most independent films, but smaller than superhero tentpoles. Films at this level face particular challenges, as they lack both the scrappy efficiency of low-budget productions and the overwhelming marketing muscle of $200 million blockbusters. Now You See Me Now, You Don't fell into this uncomfortable middle ground, costing too much to easily recoup through modest performance, but not commanding enough resources to dominate the marketplace. Finding sustainable economic models for films in this range has become one of Hollywood's central challenges. The decision to proceed with a fourth film, despite underwhelming performance on the third, suggests Lionsgate sees pathways to profitability beyond theatrical revenue. Streaming rights, international television sales, merchandising, and home video all contribute to a film's total lifetime value. The franchise has proven durable across these platforms, with the earlier films remaining popular on streaming services years after release. Building on this foundation, while potentially reducing budgets could create a sustainable formula, even if theatrical grosses remain modest. Audience demographics showed the film appealing primarily to viewers aged 25 to 49, with slightly more female than male attendees. This adult-skewing audience has proven reliable for the franchise, but has also limited its ceiling, as younger viewers increasingly represent the most frequent moviegoers. The challenge for future installments will be maintaining the adult fanbase, while finding ways to appeal to Gen Z audiences who may not have strong attachment to the original films released when they were children or not yet born. The critical and commercial performance disconnect deserves examination. Generally, positive reviews did not translate to strong box office, suggesting that critical approval matters less than it once did for certain genres. Audiences seem to make theatrical viewing decisions based on factors beyond critical consensus, prioritizing franchise loyalty, star power, spectacle, and social media buzz over whether reviewers like the film. This reality forces distributors to recalibrate marketing strategies, focusing less on courting critics and more on direct engagement with target audiences through social platforms and grassroots campaigns. Now You See Me Now, You Don't ultimately represents both the resilience and vulnerability of contemporary Hollywood franchises. The film demonstrated that audiences retain affection for these characters and this world, willing to show up for another adventure despite the long gap since the previous installment. Simultaneously, it revealed the limits of that affection, with many potential viewers choosing to wait for streaming rather than making theatrical viewing a priority. The franchise continues, but on perhaps more modest terms than its creators once envisioned, an outcome that increasingly characterizes films caught between the streaming revolution and traditional theatrical exhibition models.